Hi everyone. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for giving so much feedback and watching for the other video where I discussed the Neo Vision units for January 2021. I actually didn't expect so many viewers, likes, comments, etc. I was kind of overwhelmed by the positive responses I got to this video. So I figured I didn't talk about the NVA units. I just very, very briefly touched upon them. That I'm not discussing them within the video. But I feel like there are some hidden gems within the Neo Vision Awakened units that we'll be getting in accordance to the Neo Vision units that we might get in January. So yeah, here we are, and let's talk about the Neo Vision Awakened units. My source for all of the information you're about to see is the Brave Exvius wiki. You can see the link down below, and you will see most of uh, the information you'll be seeing is pretty much screenshotted right off of the wiki. And I was just too lazy to put them on the screen. It's just too much work, guys. So I figured I make this within a nice presentation as well. Okay, without further ado, let's talk about the first one. And if Neo Vision Laswell is the next Neo Vision unit that we get on Thursday, we will be getting Yuraisha with it. And Yuraisha is one of the few hidden gems from all of this. The base form sees a few new Neo Vision abilities. One of the few really cool things that she does is, for example, she provides 100% magical and physical insect killer, 100% only, but it's a party buff, so it applies to everyone in the party. She also gets dragon killer at 100%. And what's really, really cool is the level 5 ability she gets. So it's the second, if you're watching from the bottom on the active ones, which increases attack, magic, spirit, and defense by 250. Nothing too exciting. What's really cool about this is the steel element imperil from all allies except caster. So if you don't have barrel, you might not know how this works. So how this works is pretty much like Mastermind Zone. Yuraisha steals the elemental imperils, say minus 200% to light, and removes it from the unit she's stealing it from. So, for example, take White Dragon, the White Dragon Extreme Trial. The boss imperils light and dark, I believe, preemptively, and if you use that on turn 1, Yuraisha is the only one left with all these imperils. The whole team has no imperils after that, which is cool. Meaning you could technically have her use a lot of resistances and make her immune, notwithstanding, even though if she steals all the elemental imperils, this is a really cool ability. Less likely so for Dark Visions, because she'd be taking off a DPS spurt, but more so for trials. She's really, really good for that. She also has 50% general mitigation for 3 turns to all allies and a 3.5k barrier, which isn't that high, to be honest, but it's something. I mean, 50% general mitigation is quite good. She also has a static increase in SPR by 300, one of the passives, and building her for passive provoke evasion is sadly impossible, as she has a passive that decreases the chance of being targeted by 50%. Also, her limit burst, it's at the bottom of all things, really doesn't do much. It fills LB gauge, or the LB gauge fill rate by 200, 4k barrier, and 200% attack, defense, magic, and spirit increase. Not too exciting if you're asking me, but I mean, the elemental imperil steel is the kicker here for her, next to the killer buff, to be honest. Okay, this is a shift form, so her age is a little bit showing in that shift sprite. And yeah, she's still somewhat a healer buffer in that one, where she has the notable things are actually LB fill, which is cool. It's on her Grandis. She can also remove all debuffs from all allies. which is pretty cool. And she has 60% physical and magical mitigation available from turn 1. She can also boost some resistances, blind, sleep, paralyze, confuse, disease, and petrify. Pretty decent stuff. And her shift limit burst is way better than her non-shifted limit burst. This one has to 80% attack, defense, magic, and spirit, a 6k barrier, and it also recovers 180 magic points to the party. So yeah, Yuraisha, if you have multiples of her, she's the one to go for on the Laswell banner. She's really good. She's probably our best healer for the foreseeable time. There's nobody coming close to her in the upcoming months. Okay, also releasing with New Vision Laswell is Kunshira. I'm not quite sure whether Kunshira is male or female, so I will just call him or her by his name. So Kunshira, I feel like this unit really gets the short stick at the end of all of this. More so, it's not really a unit for Dark Visions. As you can see, the active abilities Water Light Hybrid damage to all enemies, which is bad per se already, or Wind Earth Hybrid damage to all enemies. It's Absolute Mirror of Equity chain. The modifiers are super high, right? 98%. Super good modifiers. However, it's dual element. And just for example, if a Dark Visions boss is only weak to, say, water and fire, the water and light hybrid damage won't do much, right? The same applies to the other one with fire and wind. It's only really good for trials that are actually weak to both element Kunshira uses, or Kunshira just isn't worth it. What's also notable about the New Vision Awakened base form is that Kunshira gains triple cast. It also gains a 200% modifier cap, so finally 6x cap for Kunshira. Also gets or receives 500 attack and magic, static, increasing modifiers, etc., etc. So it's pretty good. They actually made huge efforts to get Kunshira up to a somewhat decent hybrid attacker, but still, double element, it's not that good. Okay, that is the New Vision Awakened shift form. Pretty much same deal, with even higher modifiers. As you can see, the Grandes over here, 3 users per battle, unique selection on multicast, 134 X multiplier and hybrid damage, but it's even 5 elements: fire, lightning, water, wind, and light hybrid damage. I really don't see any use for that. I mean, it sounds cool on paper, but if you're including boss resistances, boss natural resistances to elements, it's not as good anymore. It's also only 75% decrease to defense and defense and spirit on an 8 turns cooldown, so to speak. I mean, the imperils for fire, lightning, water, wind, and light by 120 are nice, but it's just, I don't know. It's just not working out. However, on the other hand, Kunshira provides increased break damage, 300% for rods. Well, it's only 300%, don't ask me. And 500% for maces. That's pretty okay, but who's using maces at this point in time, right? And we've also got a high modifier LB, 104x, with lightning and wind hybrid damage, 85% breaks to defense and spirit, as well as 125 resistance reductions to lightning and wind. And here's the kicker, right? Kunshira impels 4 elements at 120: fire, lightning, water, wind. Oh no, it's 5. Never mind then. I was about to go on a rant about the Grandes, but it's fine. Still, Kunshira rather underwhelming, I would say. Kunshira is pretty okay if actually the boss is weak to the elements this unit uses, but I don't see much use for this unit in the future we are having. Okay, let's move on to Lit and Jake. Now, I should mention the global side of things. We do not have Lit and Jake as far as I'm aware. and we might not get them at all. It really depends whether Gumi really wants to release 3 new 7 stars or 7-star base forms for Neo Vision Awakened. Because with the tag units, we'll be getting not only Lid and Jake, but the 2 next ones that are following after this as well. So I'm just touching upon very briefly what new things Lid and Jake are getting in their base form, because we might actually not get them, and I do not really want to waste time on here. So they have, or the notable things about Lid and Jake are they have 4 element imbues, which are lightning, ice, fire, and light. They imperil 100% for all 4 of those, but that's pretty much right about it, right? They do have some cool caveats, like increased resistance to attack breaks 100% for all allies. They also cure attack breaks to all allies, so it's pretty a cool ability, if you're asking me. They also increase LB gauge for themselves with the other one. That is this one here, over here. It reads attack gimmick. Attack gimmick is that one. So they are more or less a gimmick unit. I should mention that. Their passives, 125 to Machinas and Stone, pretty cool, but the damage is rather low. And this is the shift form, where Lid carries Jake around, which is kind of funny, but oh well. And as you can see, it's pretty much more of the same. But let me go back one moment. So they have 70% breaks, cooldown 74% break, and they have a cooldown available on turn 3, which increases physical damage against Stone and Machina by 100% as well. It's a self buff, not party buff, so too bad, right? Okay, that's pretty much all about them. They do have Boarding Strikes and Absolute Mirror chains. Not too keen on them. All of us have 0 copies of them, and if you're asking me, it's not worth the investment. Unless they are a free unit. I'm not sure whether they are a free unit. If they are, cool. But still, pretty lackluster. Now, let's move on to the other ones, Fina and Dark Fina. So we are moving into the Fina fantasy Brave Exvius territory again, because you'll be listening or hearing the name Fina a lot of times going forward in this video. So they were given to us through a bundle, or you could actually pull them. So Fina and Dark Fina, they do gain a little bit of stuff, good stuff to be honest. So they have a new magic earth attack that also increases LB damage by 150%, Stardust Ray Chain, which is pretty unique. But it's less so about the base form, which is still kind of meh, if you're asking me. So let's rather quickly move on to the shift form, where things get a little bit more interesting. So, as you can see, once per battle, Fina and Dark Fina can increase Earth physical and magical damage for 4 turns to all allies by 20%. Now, we all know Shoreline, Fina, and Daisy do have a 25% Earth amp, but it's on their limit burst. So if you're fine with sacrificing 5 Earth amp, it's something. I mean, they're still doing capable damage. It's not that much, but it's still something, and probably more than Shoreline Phasey does, right? They do have a decent Earth Magic modifier at 72x at Absolute Mirror of Equity Chain. But yeah, that's pretty much all about it. I wouldn't use the Light Magic because it's just a 54x modifier. Nothing too exciting. Also, what's really cool about them is their LB. While the damage is very low at 88x, they do have a 130 Earth Imperil, which is unique. We do not have many units that provide 130 Earth resistance decrease, so that is something to take note of. Still, if you don't have Fina, Dark Fina, you don't need to chase them. They're just nice to have, I would say. Next up, Untamed with Edel. She was, or technically still is, a free unit that we've gotten in the past. And what's funny is she actually gains not a single active New Vision ability in her base form. So all you're seeing is all she gets for her base form. She gains 500 static attack, which is a lot, and she also gains 150 LB damage passively, which is pretty decent. Now her LB, all things considered, is still bad. It's just a 42x and only provides 50% beast killer, so physical beast killer. That's literally nothing, but she's a free unit, so we shouldn't complain. Most free units are rather bad. Her shift form changes the whole shtick of her. As you've seen, this is still a physical base damage dealer, the base form. The shift form, on the other hand, is evocation based. Still, she is very low on the damage side of things. As you can see, her limit burst is only 55 modifier on the evoke side of things, so it's rather useless to use her limit burst because her wind evoke damage ability has a 70% evoke modifier, which is far better. It's also bolting strike family, which is pretty cool. She also provides a 120 wind resistance in peril, and well, that's pretty much all about it, right? So nothing too fancy. If you missed out on Terra, she is okay-ish. I wouldn't actually bring her to any fight, to be honest, because she does very low damage. But still, for a free unit, pretty cool. And if you were wondering whether you actually need evoke damage for the next time, the answer is clearly yes, because we are going to see a few more evocation damage dealers down the line, and also in this video. Okay, so let's move on from Edel and come to Infernal Fire Rain, who also gets a New Vision Awakened. He too does not gain a single active ability. He does gain 500 static attack, some increased modifiers, as well as 100% LB damage passively. His New Vision attack is 24x fire physical with 50% ignore defense to all enemies. Okay-ish, but still very low modifiers. The ignore def doesn't really do much for that. But the kicker is 120 fire decrease, but it's still comparing to, for example, Van, who has a 130 in peril on his limit burst. That's not really cutting it these days. What's cool about Infernal Fire Rain is his shift form, on the other hand, because here he is also an evoke damage dealer. His element is obviously fire. And as you can see, the modifiers are quite cool, right? 73 evoke, fire evoke damage. He has a 90x or 90% fire evoke cooldown on turn 3. He decreases SPR by 80% innately with the same ability. Increases LB damage by 250%. It all sounds pretty cool on paper, right? But it's not. So the question at hand is, why is Infernal Fire Rain not a good fire evoke damage dealer? The reason is, on the one hand, he only gains 100% evoke damage from his passive. The other one is he only has 50% base evocation magic. For example, Terra has 240% evocation magic. He's also a true dual hand unit, so he does not benefit from the 6x cap, such as Terra, for example. And the Esper field he provides through Ifrit is the same as Terra has, which is Fire Amplify. And I know that the Fire Amplify from Ifrit does not increase Terra's damage, and it might be the same for Infernal Fire Rain, because Infernal Fire Rain has the same ability type of things such as Terra, so his Fire Amp might not do anything for himself, which is kind of bad. So yeah, if you have Infernal Fire Rain, yeah, he's cool to have, but he's a really, 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 really discounted Terra at this point. He's not gonna do much for the damage you can dish out. Okay, next up is the second highlight of this video pretty much. It's Draconian Princess Fina, or how I like to call her, Discount Princess Fina, but she's not a discount unit anymore after all the Near Vision Awakened stuff. So she also has no active ability in her base form. She gains 400 static magic. She also gets a 50% more equipment magic when she's single wielding, 150 LB increase, 30% evoke damage, and her near vision limit burst is kind of meh if you're asking me, but it's something, right? The real kicker is her shift form. Not only the sprite looks badass, the abilities are super good as well. So much like Infernal Fire Rain, she's locked to one element, which is light in here. She also provides a 120 light resistance in peril. But what's cool about her is she has 15% light amp. It's only for herself, mind you, but it's something that Rain, for example, does not do. She also fills her complete LB gauge with one of the abilities. So she actually works in a way just like New Vision Terra. And her LB is also quite decent. And what makes her so much better than Infernal Fire Rain? Okay, so on the one hand, Draconian Princess Fina has 230 innate Evo magic. It's only 10% less than, for example, New Vision Terra has. She has 30% evocation damage, which is low and hard to gear for, but higher LB innate buff mods, meaning you can kind of forgo LB stuff because she, compared to Terra, has passive LB boosts, which make gearing her for limit burst damage a little bit easier. And with the very easy to gear evocation magic, you can focus more on the evocation. Evocation magic is high, and you can focus on gearing her for evocation damage. We don't have that much evocation damage gear just yet, but we will get more when, I believe, Faris releases, which is probably sometime in March. And she also has her own light amplify within her standard rotation. As you can see, she has a quad cast right from the get-go, and she only has 4 active abilities. So you will for certain include her light amp anyway, every 4 turns. And yeah, her damage is super high, and it's very likely that you will see her on dark vision stages that need to be dealt by either light damage. So for light damage, magical stages on dark visions, she's your girl. She's really strong. Also, just for trial purposes, she's good too. I mean, the damage isn't just only good for dark visions, it's very high and good in general. So you should get her if you have the chance to. Okay, next up is Radiant Lightning. So she gets a Near Vision base or Near Vision Awakening next to the Near Vision Lightning form, or Near Vision Lightning will be getting. And I want to stress here too, we might not get Near Vision Lightning, and thus no Radiant Lightning and Lightning Near Vision Awakened in January. They might actually be February units. It really depends how Gumi schedules things around. It really comes down to whether we get Last Word this week or next week. So yeah, we will see about that. Anyways, let's just talk about Radiant Lightning Near Vision Awakened anyway, and if she is a February unit, I will just copy all of this to the February slides as well. So she has some notable abilities in her kit, even in her base form, right? So the first one is already at the very top, the active ability with 110 modifier lightning physical damage ability, which chains in absolute mirror of equity. It is a high modifier ability, pretty cool. But everything else is just mediocre. So her damage all around is, compared to the other Neo Vision units, which is quite of an unfair comparison, but she is still on the lower side of things, all things considered. So, but nonetheless, for lightning element, she isn't that bad. It's just that she is already power crept, so to speak. What's also a notable gain is her bolting strike ability she gains, decreases lightning resistance by 120, which is pretty decent. And she also fills LB gauge. On the passive side of things, she gains 500 static attack. She also gains physical damage against Machina's by 150%, which I was always wondering why she was missing this from the get-go. But here we are, she finally gets the Machina killer she always deserved. And the other passive ability is that she increases attack and magic by 50% and also gains 150 passive LB damage, which is pretty decent. And her level 40 limit burst really doesn't do much, to be honest. It pretty much serves as a modifier increase to some of her abilities. That's all about it, to be honest. Okay, let's check out her shift form, which looks pretty cool. Here we are. I like the sprite of it, to be honest. And it's more of the same though, right? What is cool is the second bolting strike ability, which increases effectiveness with consecutive use, meaning after 3 times the modifier is 86, which is not bad, not bad. She is a magic damage dealer on her shift form, so to speak, so please be aware of that. She's a physical type damage dealer in her base form, but a magical lightning attacker in her shift form. She can increase her magic by 300% and also unlock a quad cast with the same ability. It's on a 6-turn cooldown, but her quad cast also lasts for 6 turns. So that is cool, but she really takes 1 turn to get ready, because on turn 1 you have to use the 6-turn cooldown ability to get her quad cast unlocked, to get her magic up and running, and she is a little bit slow in that regard, that she actually needs that 1 turn where she literally does nothing. Other than that, she has a high modifier limit burst, 115, for a Neo Vision unit, high. And she also imperils lightning by 130% for 4 turns on her limit burst, which is good. That is pretty decent, I would even say. So yeah, not bad as a lightning magical unit, especially with the 130 lightning imperil. But her general damaging capabilities, I can't English today, are still on the lower side of things. Still, for trials that are weak to lightning, or for dark vision stages that are weak to lightning, she might be considerable, or you might consider her. She isn't that bad all around. She's just a little bit low on the damage side of things. But on the flip side, not that many units use bolting strike as of today, so keep that in mind. Okay, let's move on to the last one. And this is lightning. Quick side note, lightning was the very first 7-star unit I got. So yeah, she gains 3 abilities or 2 abilities and triple cast, which she was always missing somewhat from her basic kit. So as a Neo Vision Awakened, she gains triple cast. She also decreases lightning resistance by 120%. And has a bolting strike ability that strikes twice. That is the bottom one of the active ones. 1 lightning ability or 1 lightning strike is for 5x modifier, and the other one for 67. I don't like abilities that deal damage twice, because they are stupid and hard to chain with. So yeah, I would much rather prefer the top one, which also decreases lightning resistance, even though the lower one has the higher modifiers. So I'm not really sold on her deal damage twice ability. Um, I don't like it. On the passive side of things, she gains 200 LB damage, which is high, and 600 static attack. That's when you know a unit was severely underpowered upon release, and she needs a lot of things to be considered decent. And 600 attack sounds like a lot, but it's still not enough. It's also funny that they increased a modifier of one of her abilities by yeah, it's one of the older abilities by 60. I guess that speaks volumes of how bad Lightning as a unit was and still is. She also gains physical damage increase against Machinas by 100%, and she's naturally immune to blind and confuse. Her limit burst decreases defense of 70 by 74%. Nothing too fancy. Let's move on to her shift form, which is another damage dealer with more of the same, to be honest. She does have one critical ability, which is the second one over here that I'm where my mouse is hovering over right now. 80x physical damage, and it's not elemental damage, which is the kicker over here. So you can technically imbue her with whatever and use the high modify ability. That is pretty cool. It's Bolting Strike. Again, we do not have many units for Bolting Strike, but the imbuable 80x attack is decent. It also increases lightning resistance to the party by 80%, so that's cool. What's also funny about this form is that she decreases gun resistance by 35% for all enemies. That is decent, but we don't have much gun users yet. And her Grandis ability decreases magical damage done or damage taken from Machina monsters, and it increases at the same time the damage you deal against Machinas by 100%. And it's a super loaded ability. It also increases LB damage by 100% for all allies for 3 turns, and it's not dispellable, which is really cool about her shift form. So to speak, she is somewhat of the physical realm, I would say. Because Realm does pretty much the same thing, right? She increases LB damage by 100% to all allies. And Realm has rod resistance reduced, Lightning has gun resistance reduced. So in a way, she is the physical realm, if you want. And her limit burst is a lightning amp by 25%, which is good. For 25% lightning amp for 3 turns. And she also imbues the whole team with the lightning element. And also increases attack and magic by 280%. So her shift form, while the damage might not be that high, she has a lot of support in it, which I personally like. And she might see some use in Dark Visions for lightning stages and Machina stages. So yeah, she's not that bad in her shift form, to be honest. And she might actually see some use. All right, and that's pretty much all about it. Thank you all for watching. By the way, I do want to mention one more thing, which does not have anything to do with the New Vision Awakened units we are going to get, but it has to do with one New Vision Awakened units that we already have. And that is Dark Knight Luneth. If you have him, you should consider getting his EX plus 1. The reason is we are getting Dark Anima for the next Dark Vision boss. And if I'm not mistaken, Dark Knight Luneth is the only unit that has a 200% undead buff. And we are going to need that buff to cap Anima. So if you have 8 UOCs lying around, consider using them on Dark Knight Luneth for the next Dark Visions, because you will need him to cap Dark Anima. Okay, that's pretty much all there is for the New Vision Awakened units. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative for you. And yeah, we'll see each other very soon again for the free 10 pulls I did. I recorded all of them so far. There's 2 more days to go, and once they are done, I will upload that video as well. So it will be coming on Wednesday. But yeah, that's it so much from me. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you all for watching. Have a nice day and goodbye.